Good morning, and thank you for attending today's Candidate Forum, featuring the candidates for the 52nd District of the Illinois House of Representatives. My name is Vicki Martin, and I'm the President, Co-President, and Forum Chairman for the League of Women Voters of the Palatine Area, which includes Barrington, Long Grove, Inverness, Hoffman Estates, Rolling Meadows, and Schaumburg. Founded in 1920, the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that neither supports or opposes or recommends candidates for office. The League was founded here in Chicago 100 years ago to help educate and inform the new female voters who had just earned the right to vote. The League's purpose is to promote responsibility through the informed and active participation of all citizens. Providing this forum enables members of the community to become better informed about the issues facing their community and the candidates running for office. We're pleased to offer this service to you. We'd like to extend our sincerest thanks to Sam Adams-Lanham, Community Engagement Librarian for the Barrington Area Library, whose help and technology have made today's forum possible. Sam is our co-host today, and I'm going to turn the forum over to Sam, who will explain the Zoom functions that we'll be using today. And thank you all again.
Thank you, Vicki. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. We are recording today's candidate forum and will make it available on the library's YouTube channel, the League of Women Voters website, and the League of Women Voters YouTube channel. As attendees, you will not appear on screen. Only the candidates and the folks who are running the forum will be on screen. Attendees will be muted throughout. We do have a question for you. The League works very hard to publicize their forums. So we have a poll asking how you learned about it. You may give more than one answer if that is applicable for you. Okay, and we've got a few more seconds to go. Okay, I am going to end polling there. And we will save that. So I would like to introduce Cate, who is our moderator for today. Cate Williams has been a member of the League of Women Voters for the past 8 years. She is currently the board secretary of the League of Women Voters of Illinois. She is also president of the McHenry County League. Voter education is part of the work Cate does every day. She always tries to present a well-balanced view of issues to help voters make wise choices at the ballot box. Cate has been trained by the Illinois League of Women Voters and has moderated many forums. So we are very fortunate that she is able to be with us this afternoon. Cate?
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be the moderator for this candidate forum. I live in Crystal Lake, so I'm not eligible to vote in this election. So I've been asked to serve as that impartial moderator and as a volunteer for the League of Women Voters. Let me take just a couple of minutes to explain the format and the rules of this forum. All the candidates were contacted by mail, email, and phone and have agreed to abide by the ground rules provided by the League of Women Voters. They are as follows. Candidates have drawn numbers to determine speaking order, and I'll rotate around that order so each person has a chance to be the first to answer a question. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement. Then the questions each are 1 minute answers, and I'll repeat the questions as necessary. Then in addition, they'll have a 1 minute closing. We have a timer, Jackie, that will enforce the time. She'll hold up a sign for a 30-second warning, and then a 15-second, and then a stop. And I will enforce that time in order to give everyone a chance to speak. The questions have come from the audience, civic groups, and the League of Women Voters, and each person will have a chance to answer the questions. We've made sure that we've reviewed them for clarity, appropriateness, and avoid duplications. We do ask that you don't interrupt each other. And today's forum is being taped and will be used to educate the public. As Sam mentioned, it'll be available on the League of Women Voter Palatine's website and the Barrington Area Library website. No campaigning, no buttons, no partisan material can be available on screen. And we ask that no voice or image or any duplication of the forum can be used by you or a representative in any advertising. We own the copyright of all the recordings and the transcripts, and we use them to publicize not only this forum, but again, to educate the public. To view it, please go to the League website, lwvpalatinearea.org. Today, we're going to hear from candidates hoping to represent the 52nd district for the state of Illinois House of Representatives. By the way, District 52 has a population of over 105,000 residents. On the ballot today, Martin McLaughlin, Alia Sarfraz, and Marci Suelzer. And I want to thank you for your participation. We'll begin in order of drawing. And so Marci, you'll begin, then Martin, and then Alia. 2-minute opening statements.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here. I want to begin by talking about my reasons for entering the race. I entered the race to fight for working and middle-class families. There is food insecurity in District 52. There is housing insecurity in District 52. There are elders who are forced to choose between food and medications here in District 52. And there is despair of those who have lost jobs in the pandemic or perhaps been unable to find them. These are the people that I will fight vigorously for in Springfield. I entered the race to fight for small businesses. Small businesses are absolutely essential to our communities. They provide employment and they directly benefit local economies. Yet the lobbying and financial power of conglomerates mean big box stores can enjoy tax breaks and windfalls that smaller businesses cannot. I entered the race so that voters could elect a representative who recognizes that District 52 is becoming increasingly diverse and who applauds rather than fears that diversity. I am a passionate defender of the LGBTQ community, immigrants, refugees, and adherents of all religions, including those with no religion. I am a strong advocate for women's rights, including the right to choose. And I entered this race to be a champion for planet Earth. Human-driven climate change is one of the most crucial issues facing us today, and it affects us here in District 52. We need to address all of these issues forcefully and vigorously in Springfield so that District 52 residents can enjoy the best quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Marci. Martin.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for holding the forum. This is an exceptional opportunity for voters to get a compare and contrast of those that are looking to represent them in the 52nd district. So I thank you for the forum. Personally, my name is Martin McLaughlin. I'm the father of 5 daughters, married for 29 years, living in the Barrington Hills area for the last 15. Professionally, I've been managing a small business over the last 30 years, and I am a small business owner that specializes in managing pensions. And with pensions being one of the biggest problems in Springfield, I've had a front row to watch some of the worst decisions made on behalf of the taxpayers over the last 15 years. My professional occupation, I try to close that gap between what taxpayers owe and what politicians have promised. And I've been doing that for 30 years. Politically, I was in 2013, a high school friend and I sat down. We were very disappointed in the way our local government was being run. So we put together a sophisticated campaign, went to Starbucks, took Christmas cards and wrote down 5 things we were most disappointed about in government, sent it to our neighbors, and we were surprisingly elected in 2013. I've been able at the local level to consolidate departments, consolidate different aspects of government, and have been able to reduce the local tax levy 6 times by over 24%. I am looking forward to doing the same in Springfield, or at least being a contrary voice to Mike Madigan and those that have supported his tax and spend ways over the last 15 years. I'm strongly disappointed that Springfield has passed a budget that is over $6 billion out of balance. And now it appears that the governor and lieutenant governor are coming after all of us to pay that difference. So I will be an advocate on behalf of bringing business principles to Springfield, and I look forward to earning your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Alia.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm here and I'm glad to be part of this Women League of Voters invitation to present myself and my platform along with the other candidates. Indeed, it is an honor to be with everyone today, simply because we have such a diverse range of candidates, and we hope that each candidate can bring forth with them some level of representation of what is you. And I'm here to excite the voter base. I'm here for the people in Illinois that are tired of the bipartisanship and the division that is felt throughout the media and within the public. I bring with me initiatives and inject a different insight to what can happen here in District 52, simply because sometimes when you're living in it, you can't see the problems. So I've had that ability to live in other places, not just within District 52, but see from a global perspective what needs to be done and how we can work together and across aisles. I'm here to try to bring some peace. I feel that the youth is what is our future, and I'm here to project not just for the now, but I'm looking for 10 years down the track of what needs to be done. And it's not just climate change, it's food supply. Even with COVID-19 and all the issues of police brutality, I see Chicago as one of the most segregated cities. And unfortunately, I know how to work across all the aisles and how to get movement happening. And I really want to bring some excitement about voting and choice and representation of real people. I'm not corporate controlled. I'm here doing it for the people. And that's what I wish to do for you all.
Great, thank you. All right, very first question, pretty timely question. Do you support automatically registering every citizen to vote on their 18th birthday? 18th birthday, automatic registration. We'll start with you, Martin.
I registered at 18. I think it's a great way to get our younger population engaged. So I would be an advocate of voter registration for anyone at the age of 18. Further, I would love to see our school districts enhance their civics education, because it seems that many of the my daughters included 5 that have gone through District 220 and a number of universities are confused on what it takes to change laws in this country. So I'd love to see a civics course that ends up in the high school with voter registration and show them how to go through the process. So yeah, I'd be an advocate of that.
All right, thank you. Alia, same question, automatic registration to vote on your 18th birthday.
Here's what's interesting. I grew up in Australia, and over there we are mandated to vote. In fact, we get fined when we don't vote. And I feel like living there, people are more concerned about voting and their choices. Coming here, I did see a level of apathy with the American population. And part of it is because people aren't excited about their choices, or people are comfortable with where they're at, or people honestly feel that they can't do anything about the system. So, you know, when it comes to looking at where I was and where I am now, I would also advocate for it if that is what will get people more excited about working towards the system. And part of the issues I see is election reform, and that needs to be changed. But having said all of that, the American population and what makes America great is the right of choice. So I think there is a fine balance between both.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, and Marci, automatic voter registration on your 18th birthday.
I am a firm believer in automatic voter registration, but I want to echo something that Alia said, and that is registration isn't enough. We also need motivation and commitment to make voting the priority in every American's life. I got into doing anything political, registering high school students to vote in various high schools around Lake County. As a deputy registrar, I would set up times with the school, and we would go in and have registration tables at the back of the cafeteria or in the hall. And it was a great way to not only register students, but also to make them aware of the importance of voting. When people sit home, they don't have input into the future direction the country takes. And that's simply not okay. So.
Thank you, I appreciate that. All right, Alia, we'll start with you.
Okay.
Fair tax is gaining a great deal of press these days. You're on my front door. Give me a quick overview of how I should vote and why.
Okay, I believe that part of the problem in Illinois is a regressive tax system that we have at hand. A lot of people very frustrated, and we are one of the most highly taxed places out of the country, and it's just simply unfair. But having said that, you know what? Like, a graduated system of income is what is fair. It's what is right. Okay. But having said that, I think there's a lot of skepticism as to why Governor Pritzker has put a lot of money behind that. And there's a lot of issues or questions that people have around it, and whether or not we're going to be taxed in other areas or not. And I think having transparency, having that level of trust in your government, that's what I'm here for. I want to bring that level of accountability. I want people to be able to trust the representative that they have and say, look, this is what it is, and this is what it's all about, with no hidden agenda. And I think that is so important. And with me as your candidate, I'm going to do all the research.
Thank you. Marci, fair tax, you're standing at my door. Tell me.
I think that many of Illinois' fiscal woes can be traced to our out of whack system of taxation. I definitely am a strong advocate of a graduated tax. Most states and the federal government have a graduated tax. It doesn't take a mathematical wizard to know that someone who's earning $500,000 can afford 4.5% tax easier than someone who's earning 30,000 and still not have to make the hard choices between rent and car repairs. So I think that those that earn more have an obligation to bear a heavier burden. That said, we need to make sure that we hold the politicians' feet to the fire and ensure that they don't arbitrarily raise the rates or harm the low, middle and working class.
Thank you. Martin.
Yeah, I would, first thing I would tell you is I've yet to see a tax in my lifetime in Illinois that has solved any of our spending problems. Giving a state legislature that which has not balanced the budget in 18 years more revenue, I believe is insane. Secondly, with the COVID and what it's done to small businesses, and we can talk about $500,000 income earners, but I'm interested in the bricklayer that has 4 trucks and 30 employees. I'm interested in the baker or the person that's got a small restaurant that has a number of employees. Those people will be hurt and through this tax proposal. It'll drive further jobs out of Illinois at exactly the wrong time. And it'll send a message that Springfield once again has not addressed what their issues are. They've borrowed too much, they spend too much, and then they come to the people and they try to get the people to play against each other in this economic envy game. And what's happened? They just came out the other day and said, we're going to tax everyone 20% more. That's the proposal. I'm against it. I'm not for giving Springfield more money to waste on our residents' behalf.
Thank you, Martin. All right, Marci, you'll answer this question first. Think of a person that is or has served in Springfield that's made an impact for the better in our state.
I am somewhat at a disadvantage in this question in that I did not grow up in Illinois, but I do think that Governor Pritzker has made an impact in saving lives in Illinois. I wish that I had a better base of historical knowledge to go back 2 decades or whatever, but I simply don't. I think that that there are great people down in the legislature that work hard for the good of the entire state. And I hope that I can go down there and be one of those good people. So maybe someone will get this question in 30 years and they will think of my name.
Good, thank you. Martin, someone that served in Springfield, had an impact making our state better.
If I can go back as far as Abraham Lincoln, the great emancipator, I would start with him and equality. We can't forget that. And I'd like to teach that to our children in high school. They seem to have forgotten the great lessons of Abraham Lincoln. One thing I will say is the ethanol tax that was, the ethanol initiatives that was passed a number of years ago, I believe was helpful not only for the climate, but also for farmers in Illinois. And the third thing I would say is at the same time, I think Jim Oberweis increased the speed limit on our roadways in rural Illinois, which allowed to go from 55 to 65. So I'll add those three, but Abe Lincoln's my champ. So I'll end it with that. Thank you.
Great.
I'm gonna have to second Marty on that. I just absolutely love the spirit of Abraham Lincoln. In fact, once I was traveling down in Missouri and I made a special stop to Springfield, and all I see in Springfield is the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, his spirit, and he is everything that is Springfield. It goes so far as I grew up listening to the stories of Abraham Lincoln. And for me, that was one of the most exciting moments. Call it the law of attraction or whatever you want, but it really did. It took me there. And every time I make a point to go visit his home and everything about where he stood and where he spoke to the people. And I think that is one of the most exciting moments in American history. No one can surpass that.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Martin, we'll start with you. Affordable housing is lacking in almost every community. While it's a local matter, what can Springfield bring to bear to help with this badly needed resource?
Yeah, in the 52nd district, we've got towns and cities that do have affordable housing and others that don't. Better direction from Springfield in coordination with federal government would be helpful. I've sat in Barrington Hills now as an unpaid volunteer elected mayor for 8 years, and we've wrestled with this question locally and regionally. And the reason we've wrestled with it is we have contrary indicators from the local, the state, and from the federal level. So having a concise direction amongst the state and the federal level would be extremely helpful in giving direction. And then further giving local communities the ability through working with surrounding communities to annex properties in or to construct affordable housing would be helpful as well. So I'm an advocate of it, but we need to have better direction from our various state and federal leaders.
Good. Alia, how can Springfield help local communities attain affordable housing?
I feel that it is very difficult now to afford housing, especially for the upcoming generations. Honestly, it is a struggle. But I have to also recognize that where people live is also a choice, okay? People don't want their market values driven down either. But what I would do is like to help build communities up where they're at. I think right now we need to empower people. Part of the utilization of a lot of vacant homes to sustain the level of a price of property. We're dealing with COVID right now. And I feel the introduction of a public bank is something we need to do. And that's going to help across the board when it comes to even schools and the amount of money that investors owe when it comes to the financial debt. That is definitely one way to solve the problem.
All right, thank you. Marci, affordable housing clearly lacking in almost every community. While it's a local matter, what can Springfield do to address this badly needed resource?
I do think that there are some things that Springfield could do in terms of incentivizing developers to want to build affordable housing. One of the major trends in the housing economy right now is the growth of the 18-hour suburb. Back when I was a kid, suburbs were places where people went to sleep and they worked in the city. Now we're seeing increasing developments of small areas within communities that are revitalized by multi-purpose buildings. Multi-purpose buildings have the advantage of providing a base for small business and also housing units that can be affordable. I also think that Springfield could provide other tax incentives for developers to build affordable housing that are in addition to those provided by the federal government, which to say they are complex and difficult to deal with would be probably the understatement of the century.
All right, thank you. Alia, we'll start with you.
Mhm.
Share your thoughts on how we can begin to end gerrymandering and create sensible districts.
I feel like in canvassing the boundaries within the district is an issue. I think we have to have a set understanding of where the boundaries are at. Maybe we have to, as all Illinoisans, come together with some consensus on where things are at. There are people within this district that are in unincorporated Cook County and other areas are incorporated. And it may even be the difference between one housing lot and the other. Okay, one person has access to police and they get it like that and the other person doesn't. These are inequities. We have to be fair and equal with everybody. So I feel that's part of the problem. And then sticking to where boundaries are at and no lack of corruption and things like that. This is all coming into transparency and accountability. And that's what I'm here for, a check and balance on the system. Me being a Green Party representative is a check and balance on the system. It's bringing another voice. It's bringing a non-corporate incentivized person to the table.
Thank you. Marci, the ever popular, how can we begin to end gerrymandering and create sensible districts?
Well, gerrymandering's been around almost since Abraham Lincoln, maybe even then, even before, and not just in Illinois. I think what we need to do is have a hard conversation about the purpose of electoral representation. And I think that the party in power controls the maps. I don't think that that's equitable. I think it needs to be a bipartisan agreement. I get why gerrymandering was started out on the East Coast, but I don't agree with that theory. I think that one person, one vote needs to be taken very seriously. And the only way that can happen is if it is a bipartisan or better yet, nonpartisan division of the districts along geographical boundaries rather than, as Alia said, wandering in and out between streets and housing lots. So I would propose bipartisan or nonpartisan creation of the legislative districts.
Thank you. Martin, to you, gerrymandering.
Sure. Unfortunately, Mike Madigan controls Springfield, and it's evident he's been there 37 years, and whatever Mike wants, Mike gets. And he gets that through supporting candidates that will support him to continue along that line. About 4 or 5 years ago, I believe there was a referendum. I think it was over 500,000 Illinois residents signed to get the maps changed, and it went to the state Supreme Court and was voted down. I think that was a real kick in the gut for people who wanted to change what was taking place in Illinois and took the time to stand out in the cold in front of a library or on a train platform and try to institute a change into the mapping. And when that was voted down, I think that was a significant problem. There's got to be a change in Springfield. I'm for term limits. I'd love to see the speaker step down. I will vote against him if elected. And we've got to get these entrenched politicians out. So I'll term limit myself if elected. But again, term limits are the key to change what's going on in the mapping in Illinois.
All right, thank you. Marci, we'll start with you. Consolidation of townships, governmental units, even mosquito abatement districts, school districts are in the hands of the local voter. But again, what role does the state government have in this process?
I view the local governments as the best authority to determine what is best for their residents. However, the proliferation of jurisdictions and jurisdictional organizations and quasi-jurisdictional organizations with tax and spend authority in Illinois really needs to be considered at the state level as well. For example, mosquito abatement control districts need to be coordinated and funded at the state level. Other things, such as the consolidation of local schools, really should remain at the local level, because only those voters who have the proverbial skin in the game really fully are invested in making the best decisions for their community. So, thank you.
Good. Martin.
Okay, I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Oh,
It's
while
regarding Springfield. What can
consolidation
they
of
actually? Okay, thank
township
you.
governments and even things such as mosquito abatement districts are all in the hands of local voters, what role do you see the state government in this process?
Well, state sales taxes do come from Springfield back to the local level. You also have motor fuel taxes that go to Springfield and come back to the local level. You also have pension taxes in the form of IMRF that is paid to Springfield and comes back to the local level. So Springfield does have some role in some portion of expense for some of the taxing bodies. However, the majority is local. I've been able to reduce taxes at the local level over 24% in 7 years. And I've gone to business roundtables and I've reminded the school district, the library district, the fire districts, the mosquito abatement district, community county, the cemetery districts, that if I can do this as an outside, why can't these people that have sat on these boards for 15 years do the same thing? So they tell us it's a cup of coffee a day. I like to say it's after filet mignon, sorbet, 3 or 4 appetizers, and then it's just a cup of coffee a day. Those 1% and 2% increases combined are killing the taxpayers in Illinois, and the local tax and spend bodies have to change course.
Thank you. Alia, consolidation of school districts, various governmental units lie in the hands of the local voter, but what do you see the role of state government being in this process?
I feel that at every level of government, we have some form of check and balance on the system. And that is where the state representative comes in as a particular check balance on the local government. And when it comes to the local government, as Marci indicated earlier, the power should be vested in the hands of the locals. They're the ones that are dealing with the local issues. But me, if I was elected in Springfield, it would be an oversight of the whole system. And then when it comes into play as to funding and so forth, we have to look into all the considerations on how the state benefits at the top level and how it should monitor the way things are operating at the local level. And unfortunately, there has become an imbalance of power and a level of corruption within the system. And we all need to work together across the aisles to ensure that these things aren't happening. This is why we have so many frustrated voters out there and people that are disillusioned and disenfranchised from the system.
Thank you. All right, Martin, we'll start with you. If you're elected, how often do you plan to be in your district, either in person or electronically? What tools would you use to engage the constituents that sent you to Springfield?
Well, first of all, I coach a Cary U14 girls softball team, so that will require me to be back from Thursdays through Sunday night. And we've got a game at 1 today. But I also, knowing all of the mayors in the district, and I've been to 4 or 5 of the local community board meetings. I'll be coming to those board meetings, and I promise them that I want to hear what their leadership problems are, what their financial problems are. So I'll be visiting each and every one of the town's board meetings. So I've made that commitment, as well as county board meetings as well. I'm also happy to say that a majority of those mayors and boards, which are nonpartisan, Republican and Democrat, have endorsed my candidacy. So I'm looking forward to working with them, finding out what their concerns and issues are for their residents, and then representing all sides in the best way possible in Springfield. But that softball schedule will keep me coming back, and hopefully we'll have a good season.
Great, thank you. Alia, if elected, how often do you plan to be in your district, in person, electronically? And what tools will you use to engage the constituents that elected you?
Honestly, I want to keep people excited about the voting process, and I am here simply for the people. I had no need to step up and represent on a Green Party level. In fact, I'm just overwhelmed as a person when it comes to all the duties and things that need to be done. But at the same time, I also felt there were a lot of frustrated people that wanted a route out of this. They want to exit out of this whole system. That this machine process that is so deeply entrenched in Illinois. So here I am for the people. I have canvassed myself one-on-one with the folks. I have only taken donations from individuals, and I always am here with ears and eyes open. I engage my platform with social media. And in fact, people feel very comfortable in coming to me with a no judgment zone. And I don't restrict myself to any one community since I've been here in Chicago.
Great, thank you. All right, Marci, if
Okay.
elected, go ahead.
I will spend all of my time in the district, except for those days when I'm required to be in Springfield or urged to be in Springfield, which is actually a very small portion of the calendar. I work for the constituents that put me here. One of the commitments that I have made to a number of the organizations that have endorsed me is my commitment to holding town halls in mosques, synagogues, meeting rooms, wherever they wish to meet with me. I want to do that on a regular basis. I also want to establish hotlines where people can call and raise issues of concern to them, whether it's lack of affordable housing or perceived discrimination based on gender. And I believe that my professional work in a corporation has given me a lot of facility working with social media and engaging people electronically. So I will certainly continue to do that, as well as send out newsletters. Thanks.
All right. And Martin.
I think I answered that question
Oh,
already.
sorry,
Yep.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
Good, we've ended that round. All right. What distinguishes you the most from your opponent? We'll start with Alia.
Well, I feel like I have a global outlook on the perspective of what needs to be faced. In my news feed every day, I have articles from all over the world. I look at local and the state and the federal, okay? Since coming to Chicago, I have worked with all sorts of communities. There is not one particular community that doesn't know me for the most part. I even commute downtown Chicago to reach out and extend myself, because I grew up in a high level of multiculturalism, and I see the segregation here, the class division, and it really unsettles me. I feel like people have become so within their own niche, and I think people need a leadership to look up to and say, look, I want to be like that. This person is modeling a certain way, and we all can work together. Let's have food festivals together. I believe the best form of conversation happens over food. And it's about time people got together and felt comfortable.
Great, thank you. Marci, I messed up the rotation there. I apologize. You should have been
That's
able
all
to
right.
answer that. All right, gave you a couple of more seconds there. What distinguishes you the most from your opponents?
Well, with respect to my Republican opponent, what distinguishes me the most is my inclusivity, my respect for diversity, my support of the LGBT community, believing that they should have the rights that heterosexual couples have under law, that trans people should have the rights to respectful medical care, that women should have the right to control their own bodies, to choose what they wish to do with their pregnancies. I believe that what also separates me from my opponent is that I do not live in a wealthy area. I live in a working class area, and I've worked in community mental health, where I have worked with people that bear the results of generational trauma and also interpersonal trauma from what Alia mentioned, our segregated and divisive society.
All right, thank you. Martin, what distinguishes you the most from your opponents?
First of all, rather than talk in platitudes, I've actually got into the fray and accomplished things that neighbors and residents have been complaining about, which is reforming and restructuring local bloated government. And I did that not to any fanfare, and I find myself now trying to let the region make them aware of what we were able to do successfully. I did that by bringing people in opposition together to consolidate 911 departments. We've been able to assist in the environment and water and well testing by bringing people that disagreed from different sectors. The other thing that also separates me from my Democratic opponent is I am not 99% supported financially by Mike Madigan and his allies, and nor will I be. I will vote against Mike Madigan for Speaker. My opponent will not, and I am for term limits, and my Democratic opponent is not. And finally, I will not slander any of my opponents with mailings, which has been occurring. I'll keep all of my mailings positive. I'll talk about my record, and I'll talk about my plans for all the residents of the 52nd District.
All right, thank you.
May I
All
use
right.
one of my rebuttals?
Yes, 30 seconds.
Okay. Marty is making a huge leap from my accepting support from the Democratic Party of Illinois to my planning to vote for the Speaker. Right now, there is still investigations underway regarding the Speaker. I am waiting to see the results of those investigations, and I will vote for the person who best aligns with my values and my vision for the people of the 52nd District. Until then, I will work hard to understand what the needs of this district are and how to address them.
All right, thank you.
And can I use a rebuttal back to that since I haven't used one?
Yes, you may.
Okay, I don't need to wait to see an adjudication of a corruption scandal. I have watched for 37 years as the Speaker of the House has changed the House rules to the point that you're not allowed to have any idea, whether it be Alia's, Marci's, or my own, be discussed in public unless the Speaker gives it the thumbs up to be spoken about on the floor. There have been phenomenal ideas present in Springfield from representatives like Mike Tryon to fix the pension problem. They never got a vote on the floor. I don't need to wait another minute to know that term limits and removing the Speaker and those that want to control through a singular district all the voters of Illinois, I don't have to wait any longer. I've made that decision. I would have made it 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Thank you. All right, kind of looking outwardly, over the years, tax money has been used to build up our state parks, our recreation areas. It brought in funding and it connected the residents to the outdoors. What will you do to protect and in fact improve our state park system? We'll start with Alia.
I believe that Illinois tourism is one of the main ways to generate income. Okay, so what I believe in is any historical site that is here, any parks, any way we can attract people to small businesses, to the shops here, to build an excitement. Yeah, sure, it's COVID-19 right now, but once it's over, we need a kick up starting with a big boom. So I would really investigate into areas where we can be more creative to bring income and generate a sense of livelihood. Let's get back to the vivacious people that we were. I'm really looking forward to stepping up and working with the people to help bring ways to keeping the place green and clean. And with that, I believe there are creative ways to generate income. So let's get back to thinking as to how we can stop.
All right, thank you. Marci, how are we going to protect and improve our state parks and recreation areas?
I think one of the first ways that we need to do this is to make state parks and recreation areas a priority, to make sure that they are maintained. There is a temptation, an understandable one, to do across the board cuts in services. We saw during the budget crisis of the Ronner years where state parks were closed and allowed to fall into disrepair. But I think that it's absolutely essential to recognize the strong connection between a healthy community and healthy outdoor green spaces. I think that parks are not only gathering places, as Alia said, for families and communities, but also a source of resilience and support for people that are struggling with mental health issues and just overall despair. Going back to nature has been proven to be extraordinarily beneficial, and we need to fund it in that way.
All right, thank you. Martin, what will you do to protect and improve our state parks and recreation areas throughout Illinois?
Well, in Cook County recently had a 100-year project, which through the Barrington area, they added over 400 acres to their county parks. But that program was great because they added accessibility and accessibility for the public, for those with physical disabilities. They really began to understand they wanted to get as many people into the parks as possible. In 1972, I went to Starved Rock with my family when we moved from Philadelphia, and I'll never forget how difficult it was to climb up and around Starved Rock. I'd love to see the state parks continue to increase their accessibility for the disabled, and I'd love to see them to continue to grow the state parks when possible. I think it's a great resource, and it's one of the great reasons to live in Illinois.
Thank you. All right, last question. Do you believe Illinois could move toward a total vote by mail system with the possibility of increased voter participation, a gathering of economies of scale, and increased voter education? So I've lost track.
Marty's turn.
Marty's turn to start.
I think
Thank
it's
you.
Marty's turn.
We'll make it Marty.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, vote by mail has been so politicized. It's gotten actually kind of ridiculous at this point. Everyone should have access to voting in every way possible. I've got 5 daughters, 2 are out of state now, yet we keep receiving, although they've registered in other states, voting cards for them to vote by mail here at my home in Barrington Hills. And so they obviously will not be voting in Illinois and North Carolina and California. But I think that the inaccuracy of the voting rolls, and I think we learn this as candidates, the inaccuracy of addresses when you're trying to run and reach out to supporters. I'm not confident that the lists are going to be checked, or that they're going to be accurate. And I want to see as much accuracy as possible in any vote, whether it's local, federal, or for this race. So I think this should be discussed, not within a voting cycle, but perhaps between, and the politics should be taken out of it. And we could really find a better solution. With the technology we have in this country, I can't imagine that we're using a postal service as the primary method.
All right. Alia.
I actually believe that a postal vote would make things easier for people. But having said that, I would, if it would be implemented going forward, see the areas of where issues became from this election and see if people can really stick to the rules. I do know that when it comes to votes by mail, 1 in 5 are less likely to be accepted. And that's really scary. So whether or not we need to utilize your own women's league to educate people on how to properly vote when it comes to vote by mail. Personally, you know, I've had great faith in the Postal Service. I think the postal people do a great job, and America is built on part of utilization of the postal services. So having said that, I also do agree with Marty. There's a lot of issues when it comes to the records that the State Board of Elections have. And I personally face that in my petition challenge. Okay, so that.
All right, thank you. Marci.
Well, I have to say that I agree with Marty and Alia on this. I personally believe that vote by mail, 100% vote by mail, can be extraordinarily effective and helpful, not even considering a pandemic, but some of the Western states have had it for a number of years and it has worked well. However, as both Alia and Marty mentioned, our voting records are not sufficient as they stand now to guarantee that the correct voters get the correct ballots and that all voters are able to vote, but voters who have left the state and or died are not able to vote. And like Marty, my son is still on the rolls here, even though he left to go to New Mexico 10 years ago. So I certainly think we need to clean up our records before we consider it.
All right, thank you. All right, it's about 11:53, so I think we'll go ahead and begin our closing statements. We'll start, Marci, with you,
Oh,
then Martin,
okay.
and then Alia.
All right, thank you. I opened my opening remarks with the why I got into the race and what motivated me to run. And I want to close with the wrap up of why me, as opposed to one of my opponents on the virtual stage. I do not have the record to run on that Marty has. I respect that record, but I don't think that experience in an office is necessarily the sole predictor of ability to do a job well. I think I'm very well equipped to do the job. I have extensive experience in tax and business law, particularly small business law, from managing the business owner's toolkit. And also I'm experienced in managing multi-million-dollar budgets. As a licensed professional counselor, I am able to hear the story under the story and help people move toward effective solutions that result in benefit for all involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Martin. Martin,
I'm sorry. Okay.
1 minute
Yeah.
closing
All right.
statement.
Thank you. Yeah, I thank you for the opportunity in this forum. I think it's important for residents to research the record. Mine's been out there for 8 years at the local level. I've been able to do the things that neighbors have been wanting, which is consolidate government, reduce spending, but I've also done it in a way that I'm very proud of, and I'm proud of what we've accomplished in Barrington Hills. While being at Barrington Hills, additionally, I'm also the head of the police department, and we've been training our officers now, and we've received a CALIA, Certified Accredited Law Enforcement designation. So from a public safety perspective, I've also had that experience. And then finally, in my professional background in pensions, one of the elephants in the room that's not discussed is the pension problem in Illinois. And that background, I think, might prove invaluable, as I am an alternative voice and independent view of what's going wrong fiscally in Illinois. And then finally, I'm also proud to say, as a father of 5 daughters, getting 3 out of the 5 of them to agree with me is, I think, a good primer for politics. And so we have spirited discussions on all issues. And so I thank you for the time, and I hope I can earn the vote of those that are listening.
Thank you. Alia, 1 minute.
Thank you
Closing
for
statement.
having me this morning. I'm deeply honored to be, standing by other candidates that are equally as honorable and, dignified. They have a sense of responsibility as well. But here's what I have to say. I'm the in-between candidate between both of them. If you're undecided, not sure, you don't know whether to sway by Republican or Democrat, well, I'm here to give that opportunity to people. Just me standing is taking and bringing a new, fresh face to Illinois. I'm all about people and issues, trust and safety, checks and balances, keeping it green, and fiscal responsibility. One of the things that does concern me is the way our food is affecting the people and their health. Post-COVID-19, I don't think there was enough of a focus when it came to how we could have been more preventative with the measures that we could have taken within our own hands to build immunity and to make ourselves stronger and healthier people.
All right. Thank you, candidates. That concludes, that was a pretty fast lightning round. And so now I'm going to turn it back over to Vicki Martin.
As we bring this forum to close, I'd like to thank all of our candidates, not only for being with us today, but for having the courage and the involvement within their community to run for office. On behalf of the League of Women Voters and the Barrington Area Library, I'd like to thank all of our attendees for coming. And don't forget, there are several ways to cast your ballot, several of which have been discussed here at this forum. There's still time to register to vote, and there's plenty of information available on the League of Women Voters website, both the Palatine League and the state League of Women Voters website. Please participate in our democracy by casting your ballot, and remember, your vote is your voice.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.